All right. We'll go ahead and get started. That was really loud. We're on lesson 2 of this series of lessons about Paul that we're doing while Sean's out of town. Dad, would you lead us in a word of prayer before we get started?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this time we have together here this evening to study your word. Pray that everything we say and do here will always be in accordance with your will and pleasing unto you. Pray that you be those who are unable to be here this evening, especially be with Sean as he's away. Help him have a successful trip to Africa and bring him back safely. Thank you for all you do for us. Forgive us our sins. Christ, and we pray. Amen.
All right. So we're in the first and second journeys of Paul, which kind of focuses in Acts 13 and 14 for the first, and then starting in verse 16 for the second journey. So can someone fill us in a little bit about the context of what's happening here? Leland just printed off some more lessons. Does anybody need a lesson? One? I guess just one. 2 back there. 3, 4. Okay, he's got it. So you guys fill us in on some context of what's happening here. What's going on with Paul? In the first lesson, into this lesson, what we're looking at, we talked about Saul persecuting the church last time. Then we're getting into his missionary journeys here. So. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
And the church equipping them.
Sure. For those of y'all who are here on Sunday and heard my sermon, you got a great precursor leading into this. So, unintentionally so, but it worked out. It worked out well. So, getting into the questions here, what does Paul's example teach us about courage? These are very, very open questions. So, they are definitely built for discussion. So you can literally take that in any direction that you want. Okay. Yeah. That was pretty good. I'm glad you read that. Tommy? Bold and filled with the love of the word. Okay.
Saul was a new Christian. Paul was a new Christian. And I know that he was given, gifts from the Holy Spirit. He was given special revelation.
Uh-huh.
But still, to so soon, go and engage that when you knew you would face opposition. And you knew you'd face that opposition because for so long, he was the opposition.
Sure.
So he knew what he was launching himself at.
Yeah. Yeah, he knew what he was launching himself into, and he didn't shy away. He didn't go for the little layups. He definitely was bold in what he did. But this lesson, and I'm not sure where Kobe built these from, but it gives us different sections of these passages. And when I was going through them, I think that each section of these passages that is referenced gives us a different lesson on courage. So when we look over, into Acts 13 and 14 and Paul's first missionary journey, what can we learn about courage through that? What did he face there? What did he show us about courage in 13 and 14 in that first mission?
He was beaten and stoned and never stopped. He kept going.
Okay. Yeah, so here we see him in Antioch, and he definitely did not come into a place that was always super welcoming. What was not welcoming about it? What did he face there that made it so hostile? Mm-hmm. Sure.
And it was, they got everything they could to reject it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely challenging what had always been there before. It was challenging a power structure. It was challenging a culture. I mean, it was literally challenging their way of life. And I mean, I think that that's one of the things that I think kind of separates from what we see today sometimes, is there's a separation of, church and state, if you will, if you want to take like the technical term. But here, I mean, there was a power structure created through the Jews, and this was challenging that.
So the opposition that Paul faced was not people that heard him and disagreed.
Sure.
The opposition was the state.
Right.
I mean, it was, it was coordinated. It was,
Sure.
something that was concentrated. It was focused on.
Right.
So yeah, it was intense.
Yeah, it was intense, and it was very deliberate. And from the way you look at it, I mean, it was something where there wasn't really there wasn't a break from it, and it got more intense the further he went along.
It was like a light switch.
Sure.
So he went from one thing where it being on to being on.
Right.
It never turned off.
Yeah. So then, jumping into Acts 16, what can we learn about courage there? This was with the Macedonian vision. Looking at the next passage that's referenced there, because we went through 13 and 14, so then jump into Acts 16, and it's 6 through 10, and then 16 through 34, this reference. So in chapter 16 there, what can we learn about courage there? Because I think that each one of these sections is a little bit different in what we can learn.
I guess in that first passage that's referenced in chapter 16, we see this idea that they were attempting to go and do something, but they're stopped by the Holy Spirit. Instead of getting discouraged by that, when they're redirected, they take that, Paul and Silas, I believe, take that full force and opt to redirect their energy to that. There's some courage in that.
Sure, yeah.
And personal opportunity.
Yeah, and what I wrote down was courage through uncertainty, because they were redirected somewhere, and they were directed by a vision, and their willingness to be redirected by God, I think, showed courage there. What about the second piece of that, 16 through 34? He's in jail. Yeah.
Finds a way to preach even though he's in prison.
Yep. Find a way to preach, praise, even though he was in prison. Okay.
It's not the same prison system that we have today. This is the cruel and what we would probably consider barbaric prison system. There's a lot of people who, when put through that situation, wouldn't necessarily see there to be anything to praise while they're going through that.
Sure.
Well, yeah, and in the first instance, it was the Jews.
Mhm.
It's the Romans.
Right.
So he's
Yeah, he did it from every direction.
all the government.
Absolutely. Then jumping down to Acts 17, which is the next passage. And look at the second journey.
Well, standing up against a group of people in their place of worship is rather encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
To talk to them while they're out about doing their business. And if this is a temple, there's probably a lot of things going around, and that should not be going around.
Sure.
Courage to stand up in the middle of their highest intellectuals and say, here's how it is.
Yeah. And it was courage to do that, and doing it in a very wise and thoughtful way to engage with their culture, to spread the word. So then lastly, in the passage that was shared was 1 Thessalonians 2. It was a letter to the Thessalonians. What do we see here? And this one, I had to kind of stretch to find this one, but because he's writing a letter about his experiences.
When things are happening to you at that point, it's easy to just kind of go with the flow and keep doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you write about it later, you're like, whoa, I lived through
Sure.
this.
Yeah.
I mean, to continue after you got it all on paper and you can like really dissect everything that
Yeah.
Just so much.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that I see here too is that he didn't shift it into like this victim mentality of like, oh, look what happened to me, poor me, like feel bad for me. Like he shared it in a way that to encourage others, you know, to continue to spread the word. And to me that was kind of the lens that I took through that, is that he was able to use his experiences to encourage others. So it wasn't necessarily that he was demonstrating courage as something he was doing, but it was his courage that encouraged others, if that makes sense. It does in my head. So, you know, when you look through these, I mean, these are multiple different experiences at different times and different places, as Pat pointed out, with different groups of people. And in each place, he faced something different, and yet throughout that, he was able to show courage in different ways that was all centered on the same purpose and the same goal. And I think that's an important thing, is that we can look at kind of a 30,000-foot view of Paul's courage, which I think is important, but then how he demonstrated on a micro level, I think is important to point out as well, how he showed it in different situations in different ways, because each one of these has its own little flair to it.
I guess there's a sense too in which, like I said, when you take that grandiose view and look at it, I'm sure there are days where Paul is just putting one foot in front of the other.
Mm-hmm.
Courage doesn't necessarily have to be a grand motion. Sometimes courage is just getting through it, going through it, doing what you need to do,
Mm-hmm.
and not, like he says, not expecting any necessarily glory for yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think when you look at this, what he experienced is a definition of struggle, but yet he kept on his mindset and his goal. He kept, you know, he was never swayed away from what he was trying to do, which to me that's the definition of courage, because, you know, like we talked about on Sunday, I mean, it's never going to be easy. It's not designed to be easy, but it's how do we keep going in the midst of that struggle. Any other thoughts on question one? Yeah.
Yeah, the word that I used was convicted.
Okay.
You know, he was convicted to what he was told to do and what he chose to do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever he
Absolutely. All right. Pat, I might have you beat 17 minutes on question one. Okay. Question two, why was rejection such a common theme for Paul?
well, he had in mind Jewish customs, traditions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What else?
I think the Bible and the gospel, by definition, is a very confrontational message. Anywhere
Mhm.
he takes it to the Jews, it's rejected because it destroys their system. And the Gentiles, it's often rejected because it goes against their beliefs and their lifestyle. There's a whole plethora of reasons for any one individual to reject the gospel. So when Paul is carrying that message everywhere in a non-cowardly manner, he's going to face rejection.
Yeah.
One of us would too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was definitely a very radical message at the time. And, you know, to circle back to one thing we shared in the last question, is that I think it's important to note too that, and to kind of remember through this, that when we're talking about these different places that he was going, this wasn't religion like we see people display religion today, where it's kind of this little section of their life and that's it. This was integrated in every part of their life, and so when you're talking about challenging that, it's a big challenge. And he took it. He didn't sway away from hostile environments. You know, he didn't go to the places where he knew that, you know, people were going to be easy on him. I mean, he went where he was to go, no matter what was there, and his message was challenging, like you said, those deep-seated beliefs, power structures, and cultural norms.
But by the same token, though, Nathan, and I agree with you, he did not shy away from difficult
Mhm.
ministries. But when he was rejected there, he would go to people that wanted to hear.
Sure.
So, you know, the Jews, he would go preach in the synagogues. When he was rejected in the synagogues, he would go preach to the Gentiles.
Right.
So while he did not shy away from the difficult areas, he made sure to work in the areas that were right for the heart.
Sure. And I think that's a good lesson that we can take today, you know. All right. Let's jump into question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think also Paul understood in the passage, you know, that those who, Paul had been given about a lot, so
Sure,
because that he had been forgiven much.
sure, absolutely. I completely agree with that. Leland?